The biggest challenge for someone in a chair is the attitude of society to wheelchair users. Those without physical disabilities might find it difficult to see through the eyes of a wheelchair user. Some typical reactions to wheelchair users include being talked down to, being totally ignored, or thinking that the wheelchair user can do more for him or herself. Some other typical daily challenges faced by wheelchair users: older buildings with small doorways or corridors, uneven and rough terrain, especially in parking lots, sloping ground making moving manual wheelchairs almost impossible, public transit, getting on and off buses that are equipped with wheelchair equipment. It can be tedious and time-consuming, and sometimes accessing at different levels of the transit system is even difficult if there's no elevators or if things aren't working. You might easily walk over the gap getting onto a train or a subway, or even to a bus, but for a wheelchair user, crossing that gap can be very tricky, and there's always the fear of getting your wheels stuck. Wheelchair users don't have a choice but to sit, which can present problems of muscle cramps and pressure sores that present discomfort and pain. People keep an eye out for children, so do the same for someone who is a wheelchair user. They're at a level that is below the normal line of vision for most people. One challenge for a wheelchair user, especially in town, is generally the sidewalks and the curbs. Most of them have been engineered in this day and age to actually accommodate people who are trying to use a wheelchair or a walker. But a lot of them have been left, whether out of inconvenience or budgeting issues, and they haven't been completed. So it makes it extremely difficult for people to make their way down the sidewalk. Sometimes you even have to enter the street in order to actually find a slope that will accommodate you being able to get across a roadway. The Association of Oregon Centers for Independent Living, or AOCIL, and 8 individuals with mobility and/or visual impairments have entered into a class action settlement agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation, ODOT, to address missing and non-compliant curb ramps and traffic signals in the entire state of Oregon highway system. This involves over 12,000 curb ramp locations. A group of us decided to enlist the help of HASL, our own Center for Independent Living here in Grants Pass. Actually, it covers Josephine and Jackson County and offers many different services to people. And we wanted to actually partner with them and do a little bit of investigation ourselves just to see how difficult it is to maneuver the streets with curbs and areas that aren't necessarily up to ADA standards. So we took a little trek from about Midtown down towards the Caveman Bridge. And as you might know, the Caveman Bridge is slated to be renovated here coming in September. And we wanted to know how difficult or easy it would be for someone in a chair to actually be able to traverse the bridge. I think visually I was thinking that it would be extremely difficult for somebody in a wheelchair to be able to get between the railing and the actual supports of the bridge. I think the person who had the most difficulty was the larger gentleman in our group, because his chair was wider than the other ones. But I think that at the end of the day, that because this bridge was built in 1920 and the estimated space, because I actually measured it between the railway and the supports, was only about 31 inches. Someone with difficulty could get their chair through there, probably with the chance of scraping their elbows as they maneuvered, but they probably would, in a pinch, be able to get through there. But with that said, since major renovations are being done, see this lip that there is on the supports, about 4 or 5 inches. My question is, could it be removed, this little lip, to actually accommodate more like 34 to 36 inches of space for a typical chair which would make it compliant with ADA standards. Historically, most buildings and landscapes weren't designed to be readily accessible for people with disabilities. But in recent years, however, emphasis has been placed on preserving historically significant properties and making these properties and activities within them accessible to people with disabilities. So with our trek today to the Caveman Bridge, we were there to actually emphasize the fact that maybe with just small, slight cosmetic adjustments, it could make traversing this bridge safer, easier, and much more enjoyable for someone with a disability.